joining us live this evening. So glad to have you here as always. Glad to be here. Whether you're watching this live right now or you're going to watch this on the rerun, I really do appreciate you taking the time to watch. Well, been a very interesting week. I'll get into that in a bit. I'm actually going to start off tonight with my main topic about the guitar market as it stands right now. Hey Ben, hope you're well. Thank you for showing up, man. Good to see you. I want to start there because really it's getting interesting out there. Now, the motto of this show always has been, well, I'm good, which I think a lot of you guys out there are. I think we can pretty much say we're good in terms of being happy with the equipment that we have. Of course, there are times that we want to upgrade or we want to stretch out. And unfortunately, the market as of late has not been very, let's just say, uh, friendly to that notion. I guess we could put it that way. And that has reflected, of course, in the current state of the market in prices and things of that nature. Uh, I titled this about I about a kind of thought that I had that wow, my stoner guitar, which is a boutique guitar, without any question, uh, but it's not a high price boutique guitar. It's actually I would consider to be a reasonably priced boutique guitar for what it is and what you're getting. Um, but it is a boutique guitar, and it just seems like something like that would be more uh, attractive if I were getting into guitars now than some of these mainstream brands. And what am I talking about? Well, Fender just announced another price increase that they're going to be doing in August. It seems like, without any question, August comes and they all put in pricing. But Fender's time of year seems beginning the beginning of the year, and in August they announce these price increases. And it is getting to the point where a lot of people, as you know, I peruse the forums, I've said that before, where a lot of people are starting to get fed up with it. Now, most old heads, guys my age, are like, well, I've got my stuff, I've had it for a while now. And so I'm good, but I feel bad for the younger generations. And that led to another thought that I had that, when Leo Fender started Fender, he was a musician himself, and he went to musicians and he talked to them and he asked them, well, what do you think about this? Or when it came to his design ideas, and got feedback from them. He was 100% about the musician, and that's how he ran his company until it had its first corporate buyout by CBS in 1965. Now, since then, that kind of thought about being by musicians for musicians, in the case of Fender, has really gone out the door. They are a corporate company that is interested in their bottom line, and I'm not going to begrudge them that. That's part of this deal that we live in this society, and it's acceptable to me. However, these price increases, the timing on them are bad for a lot of reasons. Primarily, well, I know talking to Barry, my good friend Barry Witt, he was alluding to this a couple of months ago that he doesn't like being put in the position where he has to clear a stock out that's at this price and then pledge to purchase new stock at this price when, because of these announced price increases, the stuff that he owns also is taking a hit too on its map price. It's hard for a dealer of his size, and when you get big like that and you have those kind of commitments to Epiphone as he does in Fender and Gibson, it can get costly. And also, you're obliged to do certain things in order to keep that deal going. And he's starting to feel the squeeze. He was talking about this a month or so ago when I went to go see him. Um, and that's pretty much well across the board. For the buyer of a guitar right now, I'm a little bit all over the place, but I'm focusing on Fender because I'm trying to make a point that this is a company that is no longer for musicians by musicians, which was its roots. B, it's causing troubles for the very dealers who are responsible for putting the guitars out. Imagine if you're a movie theater and you're being forced garbage product. Well, you're not that. I guess it's not garbage product, but you're being given product and you're told that you have to sell it at a discount. That's cutting into your theater's bottom margin, and on top of that, it's an item that maybe some people object to, or they don't want, or it's not popular. There's a lot of things in that. So imagine being in that position. And the third part of this, the third leg of this particular stool that I'm building today, is on the consumer end. A lot of consumers, as I alluded to at the beginning of this, are really beginning to balk. They're beginning to say, hey, you know what? These prices are getting ridiculous. I have a chart here um, that it is adjusted for inflation for made in Mexico strats going back to 1992 and American strats going back to the same period up until last year, 2022. And in 1992, the cost of a made in Mexico Strat was about $600. The cost of an American Strat was around $1,300. And so there was the basically we're looking at a half the price for a made in Mexico Strat. Well, let's fast forward to last year's figures. A made in Mexico Strat on adjusted, for inflation, it was about 850 US dollars. The American Strat was for 1,700. So you know, we are seeing still that half margin between the two. However, that gap is starting to close. And a lot of people would balk at paying close to, these are without taxes, these are prices without shipping. A lot of people, when it comes down to a lot of people would balk at paying $1,000 for a made in Mexico Strat. And that's coming across. A lot of people saying, when these things were down here at this price, made a lot of sense to me because, you're getting something at half the price, and it pretty much will holds true. Hey, Mickey, welcome. Thank you so much for showing up tonight. Good to see you, sir. Um, but they're just balking. It's the same guy. It's the same mentality. Well, not mentality, but it's the same kind of feeling that you get when you're buying an Epiphone and they're costing close to $2,000 with some of these new signature releases. People are saying, "Wait a minute, whoa, 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 whoa." You know, I didn't want to pay $1,000 for a made in Mexico Strat. I sure as heck don't want to pay $2,000 for a made in China Epiphone. And so it's getting to that kind of thing, and that sentiment in consumer land. So those are the three legs of my stool. Not really for musicians anymore. That's reflected in their prices, and we're going to dig into that a little bit more here. It's hurting their distributors, and the consumers are starting to balk at these things, these prices. And let's get back to that first point about not for musicians anymore. Not a company that was musicians for musicians kind of model, where it's a corporate greed kind of thing. And really, they are, I believe. Now, this is my speculation, and it's not too far off because you see other manufacturers of other goods like car builders. Ford CEO came out recently and said that, hey, we're a premium band. We're moving in the direction of being a premium brand. And that is the audience that we are going to start targeting, i.e., in other words, they're not so much interested in middle America anymore. They're more interested in going with that percentage of guys who have the money to drop on these trucks and cars that they're building, not even really flinching at the price. And the market, even though the market for that is smaller, the margins are way higher on something like that because somebody won't balk at paying those prices. Well, I see that in the guitar market as well. I see that Fender and Gibson, they stated it. I mean, look at Fender opening up that store in, is it in Ginza? Yeah, in Ginza in Japan just last month or so. Had a big opening. A lot of Japanese guitarists came to support the opening. They had the CEO there, the whole shooting match, and bells and whistles. And they were letting it be known that their interest is really going more towards, a premium market because that's Ginza. If any of you guys aren't familiar with Ginza in Tokyo, Ginza is or was and is still primarily the main shopping district. And when I mean shopping, I'm talking about high-end brands. We're talking about Prada, Gucci, Swarovski Crystal. I remember being on that street. I had to do business with them. Bastards lost my crystal. Anyway, that's another story. Um, just high-end brands, and Fender put themselves right in that slot with them, and they made their declaration. Hey, that's the direction that we're going. So a $2,000 and up Fender, whereas the middle ground would balk at that, and we're seeing that. The higher end, they wouldn't care if it was 25, 35, they'd still pay it if they wanted it. If it's something that they want, they'd pay it. They'd pay the price, and the markup, as I said, for the company is more attractive. Also, they can produce less. In an odd way, it's good for the environment because they're producing less of those middle tier guitars, or they're trying to phase them out altogether. And true, that may correspond to the quality of the ones that they're building. Hey, welcome. Thank you. I appreciate you from the sunny shores of Ireland. I appreciate it, showing up. But that's their focal point. And you see that again, you see that with Gibson. Their viewpoint is to move into being a premium brand and be damned, the mid-tier market. Now, getting to that third point, the second point about the retailers, you know, I talked about that. What happens when that cold air hits that warm air? You get a storm. So it's stormy for them because you have reverb prices. The people are asking certain prices on secondhand gear. By the way, I didn't mention that you could get a new one because the retailers have to drive their prices down to the bone because they got to clear this out. It's more advantageous to buy it new with the guarantee warranties and all the things you get from the shop than buying it secondhand because those prices are so doggone close. That destroys this market. We've talked about that. That puts the secondhand market where it's at right now. It's a wild, wild west. It's no man's land. Nobody's buying. You really got a discount out there. And you have to be able to take that kind of a hit. I did. I have on some things. Some things it's been plus minus or very few minuses, but a lot of my plus minus evens. But it keeps things moving. And again, I did well during the pandemic. So the karma of that kind of levels out, so I got no problems. But that is the fact of the matter. It's a tough secondary market out there. It is tough. It is tough. in the secondary market out there. And you're more, if you're really in the market to get a new guitar, you're in a better position with dealers to get a new one from the shop than to buy it secondhand on Reverb. That's the reality of where these prices are at now and how they're affecting people. And that third part, I'll get a little bit more deeper into that. That touches upon the economics of things. And we're not, I do get into the economics of things on this channel, and I do discuss uh, the different things that affect markets. But in this case, the consumer who's trying to sell things on the secondary market is in for a rough time. And that's just a fact because there's such a glut out there in the market of gear. And they've got to compete now with the retailers discounting heavily. Now, again, for you who are out there to buy, I told you it would come. I said, don't buy yet. What did I say? I've been saying it for over a year or so now. Don't buy yet. I said, it's not, if you're a buyer, it's not the time to buy. Hold your powder dry. Well, the time has arrived when it's time to bring out that powder and you can get some deals. Uh, you know, within reason, but you can go to a retailer and get a pretty good deal. If they're not willing to deal, then walk on because somebody else will. Somebody else somewhere will. Trust me. Don't say, hey, thank you very much. I appreciate you entertaining my offer. I'll move on to the next person and see what they have to say. And they will say it because they're all in the same situation. So this stool, these three issues here, have have come to a convergence where we're at right now. And like I said, if you're in the position of saying I'm good, which most of us are, for the most part, I'll take my lumps along with my cream myself. So I'm old enough to know that's how things are. But we're all relatively good here, though, and we can look at this objectively, which is good. That's the kind of place you want to be at. You don't want to be in a place, well, not me so much, but because of my insights into it, I've mitigated a lot of my risk. So I'm okay. I sleep at night. But it is a tough market out there. And if you're good, then it doesn't bother you. It's all entertaining to hear about. Um, I like listening to the YouTube channels that talk about movies and stuff of that nature. There must come a tipping part when guitar manufacturers are making more guitars than there are people playing piano. Well, and that gets back to number one as well. That's a great point. See, when you're not by musicians for musicians, then and your market isn't for really for the end user really, the true gigging musician out there on the road, then that's one of the legs of another stool as to why the record companies, through their control of music and buying out independents and labels, and just as general malaise in the music market has killed the desire for people to own them. I mean, there's name a guitar. I mean, John Mayer. Everybody always throws up John Mayer. Okay, great. John Mayer has been in the loop for 20 years. First time I saw John Mayer was on the Chappelle Show. I didn't know who he was, but he apparently was on that show doing a skit with him, and I said, okay, John Mayer. I'll keep an eye on him. I'm serious. I didn't know about Continuum. I didn't know about any of that stuff. I love now that I got into him. I started listening to him. One of my favorite songs is from that Continuum album. Welcome to the Real World, she said to me. That one. But it's created a market where there's really no demand for instruments. And so, who are they manufacturing for? And I think they've come to that realization. So they're not going to create those 20,000s for the masses anymore. They're going to get down to the tens of thousands or less for a small group, and there's certainly more than enough Harley Bentons and others out there to fill the void. But you're not going to see that kind of you're not going to see this kind of grift anymore. It's moving towards, again, like I said, a premium market. And I met a guy in London. I went to London this week. Hey, welcome, welcome. So glad you made it. Good to see you here. I went to London on Friday, and I went to Denmark Street, the old Tin Pan Alley, also where the New Music Express got started on this street. And I was talking to a dealer there who was dealing in Tokai guitars. When they're with Colin, the guitarista, he took me around. Interestingly enough, I lived in London for 3 or 4 years, and I never once went to Denmark Street. I never went to the Soho district. I never went to that part of London. Back in it was still a theater district, but back in the, what would that be, 2006 era, that mid 2000 era, that was not a place that you really wanted to hang out at. It's cleaned up considerably. But it wasn't. I mean, you were passing through. You weren't just hanging out back in that time. It's a lot better now. But he had a shop there where he said, I only deal in smaller brands. He won't touch the Gibsons. He won't touch the Fenders. He sticks with Tokais and maybe Eastmans. I think I saw there as well. Things of that nature. A wise man. Soho back then was a very seedy. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I remember coming up out of Oxford Station. This is about 2006, 2007, because I had to go somewhere, and I had to get out of there and then transfer to walk a bit and transfer to another line. And I walked fast. I kept it stepping. And I came out of the Oxford Station on Friday, and same exit. And I was like, oh boy, or maybe not even the same, maybe they expanded the exit. I was like, oh boy, this is like night and day, you know. So yeah, dig that. I recognize that change. If you've been around the world enough, you've seen enough things, change is inevitable. I was saying to somebody today, actually. And so he is a smart man sticking with small brands like that. He said, guys that come into my shop and they're looking for a Les Paul or a 335 or something like that, he said they're looking beyond, they got to the point where they're players. And they've gotten beyond the point where the headstock makes a damn to them. His words. He says it's all going to come down to the weight, the neck, the feel of the way it feels when he sits down and plays. And the minute he said that, I said, I love you, man. You're a man. That's what I've been talking about coming in and sitting down and playing it and not caring about the headstock, but how does it feel? I told you, I've played, you guys know, I've owned and played many, many, many Les Pauls, but these Boxer Mono Stoner Les Pauls are excellent. And so I think you're going to see, the point of all is, I think with the retailers, you're going to see them moving away. They're going to say, hey, you know what, Fender, screw you. Hey, you know what, Gibson, screw you. And which is, I think, is what Gibson and Fender are doing. I think they're trying to force these guys into a position of having to say something like that. Because it's either you go along with our premium model, which a lot of these retailers are not set up for. They are still set up for the average man musician. They're not set up, they don't have the boutique where you can go in and select the woods and have the whole experience and buy a jean jacket and all that, and a hat and all that other crap that doesn't matter a bit to the actual guitar. So, it's a smarter move, I think, for guys like him who are saying, you know what, I'm going to stay away from the bigger brands. I'm going to start gravitating more towards, uh, these mid-tier brands. It's really weird. I see 12 guys and girls taking the time to watch, now 11, but that's okay. But I only see 3 likes. Hit those likes, guys. Hit those likes. Gotta have those likes. Gotta have those likes. Hit the likes, hit the likes, hit the like. Hit that like button. I appreciate it. Take the time to do so. Helps me out here. And yeah, so smart move, and he nailed it on the head. When you hold a Tokai, especially because I got a chance with Colin to take a look at some of these Tokais that they had in there. They have them here as well down the street at a store that I deal with here in town locally. They have Tokais as well, same models. Matter of fact, they're quite popular here in Amsterdam. You can find them in a lot of stores. But just to sit down and feel, and I always enjoy playing Tokai guitars. And just saying to myself, this is a 1,600, pound guitar, whereas, its equivalent Gibson is almost 3,000 or more pounds. And, I'm digging this a whole lot better. There's nothing here that, even the headstock, which I do believe they've licensed, just like on my Stoner guitar, they've licensed with Gibson so they can have the same headstock design, the open book design, if that, helps, if that helps. And they are fantastic guitars. You're really not missing, you got a 2-piece mahogany back or 1-piece back in some cases, 2-piece maple top, no veneer, sprayed with nitro, the works. So a lot of guys are, I think, a lot of shops, a lot of those guys or retailers are going to see themselves moving in that direction. I think that's the future. I think that the Gibsons and the Fenders things, and they're not. I'm not saying they're going to go out of business. Quite to the contrary, their business model is switching over to an experience where you go into a Fender shop like the one in Kenza, and you pick out your colors. They give you pick out your wood. You pick out the neck, and then you wait 10 years for them to make it and send it to you. But it's not your regular gigging guitar. It's just something that, hey, I was walking by, I had, 10 grand burning a hole in my pocket. I thought I'd walk in the Fender store. I ordered, and you tell your buddies over a beer, yeah, I went to the Fender store and ordered a cool guitar today. Oh, I didn't know you play guitar. Oh, no, I don't play guitar, but it's just something cool to have, right? Fender's happy because their profit margin on that's far higher than they're making on a Squire. Let me tell you that right now. And that's the way it's going to go. And that's just the fact of it. So for the guys who are dealing in, the other brands, the not major brands, I think that the audience is going to say, right, okay, we are, that third leg of the stool that I talked about tonight. I said I would dig deeper into all 3 of those subjects. The guys in that third leg and girls and players are just going to say, right, we're done with this. We're going to start looking more seriously at Tokais, Eastmans, and you go down the list. They already are. They already are. I know I am. For my own personal guitar, I had them all, but my choice, the one that I love right now is that Stoner Les Paul. It is an excellent Les Paul. And what makes an excellent Les Paul? Well, I'll be talking about that in my regular content this week, so please take the time to tune in and watch that. What makes a great Les Paul? I think I have developed enough knowledge at this time to be able to put an accurate spin on what I think that makes an excellent Les Paul, and why you should not be concerned about what it says on the headstock. It's not, So, yeah, dig that. Just, think about that stool that I discussed tonight and how it is without a doubt that, guitars are luxury items. Whether you want to, I kind of balk at that slightly because I know too many cats. They got a Squire, and that's all they can get because that's all they sell in that particular country. And even at that, a Squire is considered to be top tier because it's not a locally produced one. It comes in from an import. It's got a brand name on it that do not consider that to be a to be a luxury item, but it is because the cost of it in their country. So I balk at it from the emotional standpoint, but from the actuality of it, yes, a guitar is, even in that scenario, is a luxury item. Now, it'll mean the world to that kid who has that guitar, he or she who has that guitar, of course. But it is still, even in that scenario. So even when you get here to the West, and you're building boutiques, there you can pick out woods and paint jobs and necks and all that. Hell yeah, you've moved into, premium luxury brand territory for sure. You can point to that. Walking in a Guitar Center these days sure doesn't feel like it. But I think that's one of the things that the retailers don't, I mean, the manufacturers don't like. They don't like seeing their hard work. I mean, if Rolex made a presidential model, studded with diamonds, and then they sold it at Joe's pawn shop, they wouldn't be really happy about that. So I think there's another thing against some of these retailers that like, you guys' image is not your design, the way you lay things out. I know they redesigned the Guitar Center in Hollywood to look better, and I went there right after they did that in 2018, 2019, but I was like, this is better. Yeah, it was still dim, it still was dingy, and it still had an odd smell to it. And I don't think that's a place that the presidential Rolex of a Gibson custom shop is best served. And I don't think Gibson thinks that, or Fender in their mind thinks so either. And that's, that's just the reality of it. So, they may be forcing the retailers out themselves. Hey, you guys tell me, you put Tokais in your dim ass shop. Go ahead. They look better without any light on anyway, they would say, although that's not true. Tokais are gorgeous. Go ahead. Be gone, peasant. It's kind of the jive, the vibe of that. But yeah, man, dig that. So, what's the point of all this? I've talked for a half hour about this subject. I built a good case. Again, like any good prosecutor, I like to build the case step by step going through it. And that case is, of course, that these brands have a sight on going premium. I think you can look at everything objectively and say that that is exactly what they're doing. And for those of you who say, well, doggone it, I'm not going to buy a $2,000 Epiphone. Well, you know what? Somebody will. Because there's somebody out there who does have the pockets for it, who may not necessarily, they could be. I'm sloughing them off, that category off, but more or less I would say probably not. But they are an enthusiast, a collector. A collector is a collector. Collector got to collect. And they will pay $2,000 for that Tommy Thayer or that, this, that, or another. And so it really is a move that they're making. And the mid-tier market is something that I think they're kind of saying, we're done with that. Let Harley Benton have it. And I talked about that too. I said there will come a day, it's a natural progression. At one point, this guitar was, a mid-tier guitar, and then it somehow moved itself up to being a premium brand. Another manufacturer comes in and takes that place, and in 20 or 30 years, Harley Benton's will be a premium guitar. I hope not. But there is a cycle to these things. We've talked about this before. Hey, Anthony, so glad you're here. Welcome, welcome. Hey, welcome. And welcome to everybody else who's here. I want to thank you guys so much for taking the time to listen to my mad rantings. No, actually, it's not as mad rantings. I really am trying to build a case here for what is the reality of it. And so where does that put us? Well, it puts us in a position where we can finally break free, I hope, of having that mentality of caring about what comes on a headstock, because there's going to come a point where there's going to be a club for that headstock guitar, and you ain't in it. Like, to paraphrase George Carlin's old line, there's a big club and you ain't in it. And so you will see guys who just throw in their cards, of course, and that's fair enough. But then you'll see the younger folks, those who are brave enough to take up guitar in a guitarless music market, it seems like. Although I am encouraged with the fact that there has been no rap albums in the top 10 for a year or so now. I heard a stat, which shows that that particular genre is finally run its course. What will take its place, went from rock to rap to God knows what. I would like to see a resurgence, of course, in rock again. That's where my heart is, rock and R&B. But we'll see. But they have to fill the void, I guess, for this market they do anticipate of youngins coming up and wanting to get into guitar. So they will be the Harley Bentons, the Tokais. The Tokai will become the hot shit guitar to have. The brand value is still there. We're still paying for the name on the headstock, and there's no reasonable explanation for it yet. We still want to say Fender. Yeah, but we'll break. What I'm saying is that they'll price you out of that market. That's their plan, is to price you and me out of those markets. And they're doing a good show of it. You think they don't want to? They just want to have one Fender boutique shop in Ginza. Why Ginza? Because the people in Ginza have that kind of money. I told you the story about me and Keigo, my Japanese guitarist in my band in Japan. He took me around all these clubs to meet the managers to try to set up gig booking dates. And there was a band playing on stage. They were playing god awful. I don't even know what they were playing. And all of them were in a different time zone. There wasn't nobody on the one. And he said, he said, look at their instruments. And I looked and I noticed that they were custom shop. Gibsons, Fenders, Moog synthesizers, Tama drums, top stuff. He says, those guys are the guys who can afford it. We can't. I thought as for a long, should I buy Gibson? And at the end, I decided to go ahead and purchase the Les Paul Standard. Yeah, I'm not saying, if you can do it, do it. Because a Gibson Les Paul is a fine guitar. However, if you looked into the Tokais, you would find a good guitar at a better value. Did you get to see the custom cup shop? No, I didn't, Mickey. We went to Denmark Street. So Colin and I flew over to London Friday morning. I took the early morning flight, arrived there at 8 a.m., crashed for a little bit, got a little bit turned around on the tube because I was following Google Maps and not my own common sense. So I was about 50 minutes late to meeting him, but we met up. There's a guitar of mine, the Lemon Drop stoner guitar that I have that he wanted, he fancied. So I went over there. It's actually cheaper to take a guitar on a plane and fly yourself back than it is to ship a guitar at this point. Did you know that? That is ridiculous. It would cost me the same to ship it than me to just go over there. And plus, I wanted to go over there for a number of reasons. So we did a deal on that. And then he was so kind enough to take me on a tour around Denmark Street. So that's where we were at the time that I was there, was on Denmark Street. Checking out this shop, man. They had there's this store there that used to be a recording studio where the Stones recorded, where Black Sabbath recorded. Denmark Street is shallow once it was, but No Tom is good. No Tom is a good shop in Denver. Yeah. I hear you. I'm sure it's seen its better days. I feel it's just like Tokyo. It's the same thing. You missed it. If you were in Tokyo in the 90s, you missed something. And I'm sure Denmark Street is the same. Again, like I said, change is inevitable. But for me, for the first time setting foot on it and it being a bit of rock and roll history as a street for a lot of reasons. Again, the New Music Express, it was right across the street from the shops that we were hanging out at. its old location, its original location. The shop that we were in, um, one of the shops we went to was used to be a recording studio. The Stones recorded there. Sabbath recorded there. A lot of cats cut there, and they still had the original floor. They still had the original ceiling and the parquet floor and the ceiling, and it was something to be there and the vibe of it. As a matter of fact, it's funny when I walked in, the shop guys were playing a Stones song, tuning their guitars. So a bit of history and going on that street. It was good. I filmed a bit of that, so I'll be sharing that with you guys. And just digging those guitars on that street, wow, really quite a selection. Uh, but the quality was there too. I was impressed. As you guys know, I've been around the world. I've been to a lot of guitar shops and stores and things like that, but I like these shops. They are very similar in a lot of ways to the smaller guitar shops here in Amsterdam in their overall design and look. Not the big ones like Bach's but some of the small shops, like my friend Barry Witt's, Dirk Witt's store, and that kind of vibe. And I dug that. As you know, I like that. I like the mom and pop stores. I like the smaller shops. I like the intimacy of it. I like, the vibe of it because you can get in there and take your time and you can look at stuff and they're not shy about it. Hey, like here, you gotta ask the clerk, could you break this down? Hey, just play it, grab and play it. Don't break it. You break it, you buy it. But yeah, go ahead. So the vibe and the shop staff, very friendly, extremely friendly. I went to one shop, 66 Music on the corner there, Denmark Street. 28 Denmark Street is their address. Good guys, look them up, go check them out. It's 28 Denmark Street. Cool guys, just super helpful, and had a wonderful selection of pretty cool Epiphones. So even they are, they had a few Gibsons, but they had a lot of Epiphones. It was pretty impressive to see that collection of Epiphones. So, guys, it is, it's a wonderful life. I got on the plane. So I didn't finish that story. So I got on the plane, went there, crashed, then met with Colin, and then went back to the hotel room that I had set aside, showered, went to Gatwick, got on a plane and came right back. So it was a one-day trip. It went surprisingly smoothly, and I want to say thank you to Colin, if he's watching this, if he sees this, for being such a kind host to taking me around like that. He, guys, the guitarista, Colin, who I'm talking about, who I met over there, what you see in his videos, his personality and his vibe and everything is the way he is. He's 100% original, legit, wonderful guy, funny, and a British quirkiness that I love, and just a great host. So I want to thank him for taking the time to show me Denmark Street. It was quite special, and I really do appreciate it. But yeah, it's a wonderful life when you get to get around and do things like this, and the experiences. I started this channel out as a channel that was going to travel around to these different guitar shops and show them off and be unique in that. And then of course, because of COVID, it's got to be a different thing. Colin seems like a great guy. Long videos though. Yeah. I like the fact that he breaks it down into chapters so you can skip through them. You can find the part that you like. But I do appreciate the length of his videos. And some people actually use his videos as BGM in the background, so they like the length of it too. Actually, I got some complaints about the shortness of my videos, that they should be a little bit longer, believe it or not, because some people just want to listen to me drone on about this stuff, which is good. I like that. I appreciate that. At least it shows that I have the face for radio. But yeah, Colin's a great guy. He is as he is. But he breaks down the guitars in a way that nobody does, which is why he's had the success that he's had. Um, he takes those guitars, and his production values are very high. That's because he has a background in camera work. So and that kind of thing. So great guy. I like his information, but a little long. Yeah, again, he puts the chapters in there so you can skip through to the parts that you like. I like the video. I appreciate it because I want somebody to take a guitar apart and look at it. It's him that confirmed years ago about the long neck tenon being in the standard 50s. Whenever does the standard 50s Epiphone have a long neck tenon in it too? Well, he was one of the first guys to say pick up the pickup and say, yeah, there's your long neck tenon. And a lot of people are like, whoa. So, you know, he took the time to film that. I don't have the patience for that. I have to take the strings off. I mean, there's a way you could loosen the strings and just so you can flip the bridge over. You could do that, of course. But I basically, my thing is to set up a guitar to it's perfect. Once I got it set up, I'd be hard pressed to want to take it apart. Maybe I should. And maybe I will get a little bit of that and more of that. I'm going to need a second camera. I'm a one camera, one mic operation right now. But if I get into, which I should get into multi cameras, if I can get over to Japan, I will buy a second camera. There's actually a 4K camera over there. It's so cheap that I'm thinking about buying two of them to upgrade. But yeah. And maybe start putting some color lights here in the back or something, you know, purple or blue. But he has great production value, so that's another thing too, you know, and that's not an easy thing to do. And the editing and the filming and doing it all yourself, that's something. He reviews a guitar better than anybody on YouTube. I think he's great too. Yes, that's my point. He is the finest reviewer. You know, Trogley will take a guitar apart, but Trogley has biases that I don't think he has anymore, but he had them and they kind of carry through in his reviews. So sometimes when you listen to him, you know, there's biases there, and I don't want to hear that. With a guy like Colin, he's like, hey, I got this in, let's take a look at it and see what it is. Is it good? Well, it doesn't necessarily, because it's an expensive guitar, means it's put together great, you know, and vice versa. So yeah, I do appreciate that. And he's a great guy, like I said. So look him up, go to his channel, Guitarista. Great guy, worth your time taking a look at. But yeah, that was my day, and I was exhausted, guys. I was wore out. First, you gotta imagine, I'm carrying that Stoner guitar in its case. I'm carrying it. I padded the handle a little bit extra so that I could have a good grip on it so it wouldn't slip, and also that it was more comfortable to carry. But I'm carrying that through the airport, you know. I'm so done with Trogley's channel. Yeah, a lot of people are. A lot of people were done with Trogley. I'll give you guys a little bit of the background kind of vibe on him. I don't have a problem with him. I myself, he's a businessman, and I appreciate that. He did some things that I was like, wow, that's deep. Especially when the demo guitars first came out. We won't get into that. Have you ever done a collection video? Curious to hear stories behind your selection as a gigging musician. I was a Telecaster. Yeah, there. You look back in my Matter of fact, if you really want to see collection, go back in my my YouTube channel and look in the guitar related and look at some of the collection reviews that I did when I was living in Singapore, and check that out. No, guys, as a touring, when I played live, and you'll see that in all of my live videos, what guitar am I playing? I'm playing a Telecaster for a couple of reasons. A Telecaster is extremely light guitar. It's very comfortable for me to move around stage, to dip and dive, and you know, do what I do to be entertaining. At the same time, it just have not a bolt anchor around my neck. I am eager to. Is that true? Am I really? I'd be fascinated to do a live show and see how it is with to play a Les Paul through it. That was my goal, and that's the reason I set that journey looking for a Les Paul all those years ago. But yeah, I was a Tele guy live. You can get every sound in the world out of a Telecaster. It is the Swiss Army knife of guitars. Um, so yeah, there's that. But yeah, check out my pack catalog. Got 305 videos as of tonight. And back there, I have quite a few of my guitar collection videos. I really appreciate it if you watch. Thank you. But yeah, it's funny. Yeah, I was exhausted. I was wore out carrying that guitar case around London. To At one point, I said, "Screw it." I just flagged down a taxi, and I said, "Look, dude, I gotta go here. I don't feel like it says on my Google Maps. It says it's a 10-minute walk. I don't feel like." He said, "Oh no, that's not a 10-minute walk. We gotta go this way. You have to cut through this." And there was crowds, and I just didn't feel like walking through London with a guitar and a case. It didn't have the thrill to it would have had for me 20 years ago. Let's put it that way. um, yeah, I was wore out. So when I Saturday, but I got home, walked Hoshi, my dog. You know Hoshi, and I pretty much been kind of crashing it here. Put out the video with the interview with Jock on my live. Not a lot of hits on that one. I don't think it's a popular subject, unfortunately, but I'm going to continue to do these talks with Jock for the pure sake of it being there and being just being documented. Now, we are working on our audio and video. I do realize that is a small part of it. It's a little bit better this time, but next time we do it, we'll have the split screen where we're even screened and a little bit better audio. We are working on that. So please, if you haven't watched that, listen to what we're talking about. I do think it's extremely relevant and something, if you're a musician now of whatever level, whatever it is you do, you will find it to be quite informative. Yeah. So what else is coming up this week? So yeah, yeah. I'm actually 2 videos ahead now. So let's keep this going, or so I'm not. Oh my God, what am I going to film this week? So yeah, we're going to talk about what makes a good Les Paul, and we're also going to do a vlog version of me on the streets in London. Just getting a little sample of what that's like. So it'll be a video vlog, a video log coming out of the trip to Denmark Street and meeting up with Colin. I do believe he may be doing something on his end as well, so you might keep an eye out for that if that comes up. Yeah, yeah. That is about it for tonight. I still am wore out a little bit. I'm impressed with myself. The fact that I got I got up, made, that kind of a journey from Amsterdam to London and London back to Amsterdam in one day, with a guitar, no less. I am impressed with the stamina that I still have. I'm not the old, fart that I thought I was. I used to do that. When I lived in Singapore, I would go to Thailand. I'd go to Bangkok. I'd just fly to Bangkok or for one day and come back, or I'd stay overnight. But it's just these little hops. And to go to London after over a decade since the last time I left there in 2008. So yeah, it's been a decade and a half almost coming up here. Oh, decade and a half exactly since the last. It's been 15 years since I set foot in London. I'm gonna jump on a plane in Amsterdam and visit for sure. Yeah, Mickey brother, you are welcome. And like I said, that's what I'm kind of leading up to, is that that was my first trip out of Amsterdam since I moved here, guys. I just didn't want to travel. I told you, I've been saying I travel locally to the forest. I love going to the woods and then spending a couple of days out in the forest, with my dog. That's awesome. But leaving the country and flying and going through airports, I just didn't want to do it. I had kind of I'm gonna be frank. I'll be open with you guys. I think I was having a little bit of a mental thing, because the last time I went through an airport, dude, there was a lot of things going on during. I was flying on an airplane from Singapore to here, where there was only 4 passengers on the plane. Okay. And then of all the things of that. So I think it was a bit much for me. And then when you land, the airport was a ghost town. There was nobody there, which was good for me because I was bringing my guitars in, and I didn't want to have to pay the VAT on them. But so that worked out. But this was my first kind of leg into getting into traveling again. I didn't catch that last one. If you could repeat that again, I'm sorry. I just looked up and saw that. But to finish this thought, it got me back into a place that I didn't think that I would ever set foot. It's funny to go back to London and see the old sites and say, oh my God, like East Croydon. I used to have to go through East Croydon, if you guys know where that's at, quite frequently, and I was amazed on how that changed there in East Croydon. I was like, "Is this really Croydon?" I used to stand there in the rain waiting for the train to come, to go back home because I lived in Blackheath. I had to take the the overland line, and it was an amazing thing after 15 years to go back and to see those spots. Have you tried a Marshall classified? No, no, I have not. Quite frankly, the only time I plug into Marshall amps is their 1x12 combos that they have. I always want to check those out to see if I can find, or a Marshall head going into a 1x12 speaker. And it's very rare, far in between that I try out amps. What were we playing in the music shop? We had a Marshall. It's funny. We had a Marshall. Was that a Marshall amp? No, that was a Fender amp. We used a Fender basement amp for what we were doing in when Colin was filming there in Denmark Street. So no, we didn't get into Marshall amps, and I've never gotten into anything other than the 1x12, or again, like I said, heads plugged into a 1x12. I'm kind of a 1x12 kind of guy. I believe that the best sound and your best by low end and a good all around tone you're going to get is out of a 1x12. That's proven in a lot of the recordings that were done in the 60s, 70s, 80s. A lot of that stuff was done on a 1x12, even as small in some cases like, is that really, you really got me? I think was done on a 1x8, supposedly with a hole in the cone or something, the story goes. But anyway, no experience with that. Johan Segborn on his channel, Johan's channel. That's the brother that you want to go and take a look at his channel. He has a history of Marshall guitars and a lot of others on there, and very informative. So I highly recommend going to Johan Segborn's channel and checking him out and taking a look. I am tired, guys, as I said, and we have gone on for 57 minutes here. I have 10 likes, and I've got 16 viewers. Um, Hit those likes. Yeah, coming up here this week, we're going to talk about what really makes a good Les Paul, or the Denmark Street footage. Um, I It's the end of the month, so I've got a lot of paperwork for businesses. Tax things coming up because the third quarter here, so it's going to be a push for me this week of things that I have to do. But I will try to get to editing that and get that out. Yeah, I liked life a lot better when I was a gigging musician to be in Japan in the 90s. I very rarely say I wish that I could go back. So I wish I could go back to high school. I wish that I could go back to this, that, or the other. But sometimes I truly do wish I could go back to that time that I was gigging, not playing guitar. I was playing keyboard, piano player, and keyboards during that time in the 90s in Japan because life was so much easier. Oh my God, I was free. I was literally free. I didn't have very many responsibilities other than making sure that I rehearsed and had the material ready and showed up on time. Outside of that, during the rest of my waking hours, I literally could, do whatever. Had very little obligations. Didn't have any of the cats or dogs or or any of the things that I have now. Was a lot looser. But you know what? Now that I sit here and talk about it, I guess I wouldn't want to go back. Yeah, I've got these responsibilities, but they are what formed me. But sometimes I do. That life was pretty cool. Again, like I said, I'm sure Denmark Street. I'd love to go back to the 90s. Yeah, yeah, man. Yeah, guys, I can't overemphasize to you what Japan and Tokyo was like in the 90s. It and being at the right age too, and in my mid to late 20s, I was there at the right time, at the right age, and boy, it was a great time. That sometimes when I'm sitting there and I'm just gotta write this check to this bill, or I gotta figure this, ledger out, or I gotta do this, I'm like, oh my god, what I wouldn't give to be back in Roppongi at Bar Isn't It or Motown, sitting there drinking, 2 for 5 shots and watching a brawl happen while I've got 3 girls in the corner buying me drinks, trying to see who was hook up with me. I wish I could go back to those days. But alas, we must move on with our lives, and thus well, that's a good thing. If you're progressing in your life, then you really can't complain. So I guess I can't complain. And at least I was there. So, with that, I will progress on with this live stream and say thank you so much for showing up. If you're watching live tonight, thank you guys thank you for taking the time to watch. If you're going to watch this in the rerun, that's cool too. I appreciate you taking the time to watch. Love to hear your thoughts down in the comments section down below. Let's hear what you think about what I talked about our stool tonight. Great show as always. Thanks, Mike. Take care, Mickey. And yeah, you all take care. Ben, all you guys take care. Mickey, Ben, Dr. Phil, Anthony, everybody. So much joy having you guys here this evening and sharing this time with me. And I promise I will be back here, well, God willing, this same time, same bad channel next weekend. Take care, guys. Have a good one. Bye.